Alright, what's up y'all? Doing this inside. I do not like to film videos inside unless I have to, really. But today is the 29th of July, 2026. This is a video under our main side of In The Image Clothing Company. Okay, my name is Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company. Our slogan here is allowing the body to work. I just want to make it clear how much I don't like it inside. Not as like a complaint, but just this isn't the ideal if I were to say. Okay, but it's windy outside, it's noisy for the microphone. So the video's title here is the glute muscles pull in, down, and back. And I'm going to discuss this for the sake of the anatomy. We're going to really get into this. I just love public videos. I love it outside is what I mean. But here we go. In the Image Clothing Company, we are only a clothing company really to do what our slogan is, allowing the body to work. The human body truly is just mathematical measurable degrees of hinges, levers, and rotations, just determined by the shape and length of our own individual bones that connect directly to each other through ligaments. And I say our own bones, although there's this universal human design. Every body who has one, or everyone who has a body, it's all the same. Unless you are different, but only from something can you be different, which is this universal human design. And then we just have to do all we can to get our body's physical functioning as close as we can to the universal human design, because there are physical universal laws outside of all of us. Physics, gravity, things that never change. Earth's vertical gravity pull comes down and meshes with the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. And this is a 90-degree perpendicular right angle, and the vertical pull to gravity meshes with the center line of our bodies. The sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, the jaw are some of the things in the center line of the human being. The jaw stabilizing the entire body from bottom to top, the tips of the toes to the tip of the head to the tips of the fingers, with musculature from the lower jawbone called the mandible going up to the crown of the head, stabilizing this head on top of our spine in the center line of our body, but then also out to the edges of our shoulders and down to the upper ribs. From the lower jawbone, musculature goes through the collars of our tops. My necklace here, you can see, right, this brown shirt and my little gold chain necklace, you can see them moving when I just contract or activate the musculature of my jaw, more than just it naturally stabilizing my entire body. We've got even opposing musculature from the center line of the human being pulling into the center line to just stabilize us. There's always opposing sides to a neutral position, pulling muscles on either side of the neutral to every function, like the wrist coming down or coming up. Musculature in the body only pulls, but there's always opposing muscles pulling to either close or to extend a hinge joint. We don't push, we only pull. So here's some context so you know that I know what I'm talking about. We are a credible place to find information on the anatomy and functionality of the human body here under In The Image Clothing Company. It's our goal, and we do it to discuss things in such depth you couldn't possibly dispute the information, because we don't get to decide or change truth as human beings, but this body just grows by itself. It's just blood, bone, and flesh. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto this rock in space we call Earth, and designed in the image of God, in the image of Jesus Christ. We are a clothing company for anything that is physically placed onto the human being. Glasses, hats, pants, socks, shoes, undergarments, tops, jewelry, a bag over the shoulder, or anything at all placed onto the human being. The literal word of clothing is what we discuss here under In The Image Clothing Company, and why we are a clothing company at all. So, the body truly only has one way it could ever possibly work. A lot of what I've discussed here so far gives you an understanding of that. There's no opinion to getting the body to do anything besides just the way the bones connect directly through ligaments. The bones are extremely specifically shaped and an extremely specific length, and the ends of the bones, just being this specific shape, mesh just about perfectly together. And there's a thin layer of cushioning between the bones called cartilage, so the bones don't wear each other out. But everything in the body just has to track in line, otherwise it will wear itself out, just being this machine of motion. So yeah, with this video's title being the glute muscles pull in, down, and back, I'm going to discuss this and why this is needed to be discussed as well. Well, let me say that first. Why this is needed to be discussed is because a lot of people don't understand that there's a neutral position to the entire body. A lot of people don't understand that there's really only one way that the body can be stabilized, just on Earth's vertical gravity pull, and it's just opposing muscles pulling us to stabilize in the neutral of everything in the entire human being. There's a neutral to all its functioning. And let me say this first before we talk about the glutes at all, right? Well, let me explain. The glute muscles are the muscles on the rear of our pelvis. You sit on your glutes, you've got your sit bones, the ischiums, the bottom or the rear of the pelvis. The pelvis is the bone, hip structure of the human being. So these glute muscles, we've got a glute medius, a glute maximus, a glute minimus, and then a lot of muscles playing into the same area and the same functioning, at least in similar ways to what the glutes do, because the body's a kinetic chain. The body's just a chain of motion, all connected. Anywhere any of the body goes, all of it comes, and so it all has to work together, always, activated as a whole or as an entirety. Everything's got a different or individual role to play in the body. It all has to play its role at the same time as everything else. So there's a lot of functioning going into the pelvis. And, we'll discuss that. But what I was saying that we're going to discuss first before we even talk about the glutes is the feet. Because God designed the body to work. The human being works with this lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle just flat on the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. And then that's the neutral from lifting the lever of the foot up off the hinge of the ankle, dorsiflexion, or pointing the lever of the foot down off the hinge of the ankle, plantar flexion. The neutral has to be in the middle, and it's the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. It's just like you can't say you're going up a hill unless you first start horizontal, and you can't say you're going down a hill unless you first start horizontal or neutral. So we've got man-made shoes on our God-made feet. The feet grow by themselves. But then us as human beings, having our feet grow by themselves, we make shoe designs, to be protections, coverings, literal clothing for our feet. But if you have a heel under your shoe, and I'm talking about even the slightest bit of elevation or height taller in the rear of the foot than the toes of the foot, at the heel of the foot, straight down from the two lower leg bones, the tibia and the fibula, down to the heel of the foot. If there's a height there that's higher than the toes, you're in a constant state of plantar flexion or pointing of the toes from the neutral or the horizontal surface of the earth, but there's a neutral always. And so the term zero drop in any brand of shoe, just flat, horizontal, like the surface of the planet Earth before you could go up or down a hill, is what shoes have to be. Zero drop, okay, flat. Why I say that is because I've got my shirt specifically tucked in for this video. Well, why I say that, correlating it with the glutes. Regardless, there's only one way the human body could ever possibly work on Earth's vertical gravity pull because of this. Truly, and let me say the video's title. Today's the 29th of July, 2026. This is In The Image Clothing Company's main site. The video's title is The Glute Muscles Pull Back, In, and Down. In, back, and down. However we title it exactly, those three things are what it's doing. All the glute muscles. The three glute muscles, but all the muscles going into the functioning as well in the same area. We have the ankles bending backward, the knees bending forward, the hips bending backward, the low back bending forward, the mid back bending backward, and the upper back, which is just the neck or the cervical spine, it bends forward because we truly just have evenly opposing mathematical bends back and forth, back and forth, back and forth from Earth's vertical gravity pull is what they're evenly opposing to stay vertical on Earth's vertical gravity pull because it's physics. Otherwise, if we just had one more amount of bends forward than backward, we'd fall forward with gravity. And if we just had one more amount of bends backward than forward in the body from bottom to top, we just fall backward on Earth's vertical gravity pull. It's truly just physics. The bones of the body don't move by themselves. There truly is only one way the human body could ever possibly physically, mechanically operate without parts of it just turned off and being in a constant state of compensation. But all the functions in the body are still always working. We're still breathing. Always, if you're alive, it's the essence of human life. It takes the entire body to some degree to stabilize in every single breath we take because of all the motion happening. Expanding and contracting the lungs within the rib cage and the rib bones themselves actually moving multiple inches every single breath we take. The body's still got to stay stable as an entirety for all this to happen just in all the time that we're alive. So the 29th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, this video's title, The Glute Muscles Pull In, Back, and Down. Okay, we'll discuss this, but as you can see with my pants, as I said, my shirt's tucked in specifically for this video. It's rare for me to have my shirt tucked in like this, as of now, at least, as of late, if you will. But you can see my pant waistline is just horizontal, because the hips, or the pelvic structure of the human being, have the same neutral as the bottom of the feet, and is the same neutral as the horizontal surface of the planet Earth. My arms are forward just because I'm turning and pointing to my feet. But gravity, it just pulls the pendulum of the hand straight down from the other end of the shoulder, and that's the neutral. If our bodies aren't altered, they just work. Gravity truly pulls us down into good posture, if you want to call it that, because there's only one way the bones in the human being are shaped and lengthed, and it grew to work. So, man, permanence. I am doing this for the rest of my entire lifetime. The leader of In the Image Clothing Company here, me, Evan Strong. And so just deep, thorough context. I don't have a claim on this. There always has and always will only ever possibly mathematically, physically be only one way the human body could ever work. There's no opinion to it that could ever possibly matter, even if I had one myself, but it's measurable mathematics. And yeah, so anyway, the 29th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, this video's title, today's date, The Glute Muscles Pull In, Back, and Down. So the pelvis, having the same neutral as the bottom of the feet on the horizontal surface of the planet Earth, is just horizontal, but the front can come up with the rear going down, and this is a posterior rotation of the pelvis from the neutral, horizontal, or the front can come down and the rear can come up, and this is an anterior rotation of the pelvis from the neutral. So you can see this well with my shirt tucked in, and the contrast too is awesome for the visual. The light colored pants on the dark colored t-shirt here. There's a neutral to the pelvis, okay? There's a neutral to the entire body. So 29th of July, 2026, in the Image Clothing Company's main site here, this video is titled, The Glute Muscles, actually is how it's titled, Pull In, Back, and Down. Now, why we have to talk about the feet first is because if we're going to say the glute muscles pull down, well, that's going to pull the pelvis down in the rear like this, because the glute muscles are connecting to the rear of the pelvis, or the hip structure of the human being. So having heels on your shoes, you know, it'll push your entire body forward, starting from putting your feet into a constant state of pointing down or plantar flexion, right? Just because you're putting a wedge under the heel of the foot with a heel on a shoe, but the rest of the body's still there. So we would either just fall straight forward with Earth's vertical gravity pull, having this wedge of a heel on a shoe, just pushing our center of gravity forward. We either just fall forward, like I was saying, or we have to change the bends in the entire body traveling up to compensate for this wedge on the heel of a shoe. So now the pelvis will be in the same angle as the plantar flexion of the feet, with a heel on the shoes. So you have to start with your feet flat on the ground, because the feet are always, for literally ever, flat on the ground, unless there's a man-made shoe design that decides to put an excessive height underneath only the heel of the lever of the foot off the hinge of the ankle. It's just mathematics, and it never happened to any human being to ever live until the invention of modern shoe design with heels under the feet. Heels on shoe heels. There's still always, only, and ever one way the human being's bones are shaped and lengthed from the time we're full grown until death. There still has and always will be only one way the human being could ever possibly physically, mechanically operate. Although we place heels under the shoes and plantar flex the feet, which puts the pelvis into an anterior rotation, higher in the rear and lower in the front. It's just physics. It's just a hinge and lever system with rotations. It's the same with a robot made of metal or wood or whatever you could make it out of, as it is with this living, breathing, walking, eating, sleeping, standing human being. There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to it that could ever possibly matter, myself included. As prideful as I sound, I'm included in that, okay? Truth is truth. We don't get to decide it or change it as human beings. This video's title, on the 29th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site. And by the way, first off, in the image of God is why we're a clothing company. These are things outside of our choices. How you decide you want to wear clothing, it's not an opinion. It's not my choice either. Anyway, the video's title is The Glutes. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. So the point is, we discussed where clothing sits on the body extremely thoroughly and clearly here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. Only a clothing company to do what our slogan is, and allowing the body to work is what our slogan is. So, pants sitting at the proper location, shoes, socks, undergarments, tops, and everything in clothing, the literal word of clothing the body with anything. But it's gravity. Gravity having the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. The pant waistline is just sitting on bone. It's not about how you carry fat content or how much muscle mass you have on top of your bone. It's about the physical bones of the human being. All the muscles do is pull on those bones to move them. The body's about the bones, always first. There's no muscles to connect to bones until the bones are there first. And they're just the shape and length that they are our entire lives, once we're full grown at least. And even as a child, they're just proportionately getting larger and forming until we are full grown. So there's only one way the human body could ever work. The glutes, though, this video is titled, the 29th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company, is, yes, the glutes, the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. In order for them to pull down, though, they have to be able to get in a position where you could have the pelvis be lower in the rear than the front. Pulling down on the rear of the pelvis means the front of the pelvis comes up because it's a rotation. If the rear comes down, the front comes up. This is a posterior rotation of the pelvis. If the front were to come down, the rear would have to come up. There's just two sides to it, and that would be an anterior rotation of the pelvis. Okay, but posteriorly rotating the pelvis, bringing the pelvis down in the rear by the musculature of the glutes pulling down like this. This can only happen from the feet first. We're on this vertical pull to gravity pulling us down. The feet are our support, And I'm so grateful to be able to document this. So the feet evenly oppose the center line of the human being. Okay, the center line of the human being is the same as Earth's vertical centered gravity pull, but these feet grip arches inward and stabilize our entire body. Okay, because there's one on either side gripping in, and we've got different length 5 toes within the universal human design. We roll evenly off the ends of the different length 5 toes to share the weight, you know. And so as the feet grip arches, the feet pull in and back and down. This video's title, though, goes just exactly along with that. On the 29th of July, 2026, today's date, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, the title of this video is The Glute Muscles Pull In, Back, and Down. The feet arches, though, as well, grip in, back, and down. Because we've got different length 5 toes within this universal human design, and they point up and in toward the center line of the body forward like an arrow, essentially. The pinky toes on the outside of the feet are the shortest, and then the big toes on the inside of the feet are the longest. And we just evenly roll off the ends of 5 different length toes just to share the pressure as we walk. It's even just standing, they're gripping evenly. And so in order to get the pelvis to do that third thing, right? If we're calling that the third thing, the glutes muscles pull in, back, and down. In order for the pelvis to pull down, the heels of the feet have to drop down because the feet have the same angle always. As the pelvis. It's as real as it gets. It's just truth. It's mechanics. You'll never go to a gym or do a workout anywhere ever in your lifetime at all. It's impossible to get your body to do something different than just the way the bones are shaped. So, meaning, yeah, it's just physics. I mean, this video is titled the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. The feet also grip in, back, and down with the arches in the feet. And so your feet have to be flat on the ground to have pressure on your heels to pull down with the glutes. To have the body just aligned because it's physics. Because the ankles bend backward at the feet and the hips bend backward, you know, at the glutes. It's the same bends. The opposing bend is at the knees between the feet and the hips. So the feet have the same neutral as the hips. I mean, it just is what it is. They'll always do the exact same thing. It's mechanics. The bones don't move by themselves. Okay? There's only one way the human body could ever work. Bones only can move where they join, at the literal wording of joints of bones. And we've just got even opposing bends from the bottom to the top of the human being on Earth's vertical gravity pull. So, my point is, man, this could be a long video, because I could give so much context with this on many different things about how we could discuss this. The 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, the glutes muscles pull in, back, and down. Well, you know, you got to have your pant waistline at least horizontal, right? We talked about where clothing sits. You've got to have your feet at least flat on the ground, at least. No, they have to be flat on the horizontal surface of the earth. And so, I mean, that's the thing, right? The pant waistline matches the heel, the shoe soles on our feet, you know? And so what we can do is have our feet grip proper and have our glute muscles grip proper and have a working body. Meaning, you know, like I said, and it's the truth, God designed the body to work. And what I mean, like what that literally means is, why else would we have this body? It's just supposed to take us across the earth with. That's what it is. It's a mechanical machine. So unless we ever altered it, it's just going to have the angles that the bones grow into. And then they stay like that for the rest of our lives. These neutrals always remain. But what doesn't remain is unalteration to the human being if you place clothing onto it. If you've got pant waistlines falling lower in the front than the rear, you're just pulling on your glutes. Your glutes pull, right? This video's title, the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. So if you've got pant waistlines falling lower in the front, it's pulling your glute muscles up, like elongating them when they pull down. And then the upper leg bones, man, there's so much to discuss with this because the body's just about the shape of the bones. All muscles do is pull on bones where they connect to them through tendons or insertions. And muscles just pull directly in line. And that's all they could ever possibly do. But what we have in the body is different shapes to our bones. The upper leg bones, the femurs, come up and then inward at the top toward the center line of the body. The upper leg bones aren't just like a straight stick vertically down through the whole thing. From the knees up, the upper leg bones are pretty straight. And then up at the very top of the upper leg bone, called the femur, there's this femoral head. It's a ball that comes inward to the socket of the hip, okay? The femoral head meets into the acetabulum of the hip. It's a ball at the top of the femur and a socket of the hip. And so the upper leg bone is shaped where it comes up and then in. And so as the pelvis, this is a lot of explanation, but I'm going to just say, even if you don't understand this like depth of anatomy yet, that's fine. I'll just document it as it is, because this video is titled the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main side. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. Well, when they do this, it fully opens the hips. And the hips opening, a lot of that is determined not just by the shape and the structure of the hips or the pelvis of the human being, but it's also determined by the upper leg bones that come up and support the hips. Because we're on Earth's vertical gravity pull, the leg bones have to come first, gravity-wise, support-wise, before the hips, you know? Just like the feet come very first before the rest of the entire body, if we're talking about just supporting our bodies on the surface of the earth, with gravity pulling down on us. So the legs come up and inward at the upper leg bones, at the femurs to the femoral head, into the pelvis or the acetabulum of the hips, okay? And when the pelvis or the hip structure comes lower in the front and higher in the rear, in anterior rotation, this is stretching out these glute muscles, because this video's title, on the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, is the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. So if we take the whole hip structure, or the pelvis of the human being, and we drop it lower in the front and have it be able to just come higher in the rear, just like bending at the hips, the glute muscles elongate or relax or, get longer, which is what elongate means. And what they do is they come up, forward, and inward to the front of the body. But really the glutes pull in to the rear of the body, back, and down to really work, because where they're connected on the rear of the body. Okay? So when the pelvis comes lower in the front, that'll send the rear up higher of the pelvis, right? There's just two opposing sides, from the neutral, meshing with the horizontal surface of the earth, and the bottom of our feet. Okay? So having the pelvis come lower in the front, the glutes just relax. And we do the exact opposite position of in toward the rear, back, and down, with the glutes activating or working to support the body. So why this is such a big deal is because pant waistlines, shoe soles, shoulder seams. I actually filmed a video down in St. George, Utah, about a month and a half ago, give or take, here under In the Image Clothing Company's main site, titled that in a different order: shoe soles, pant waistlines, and shoulder seams. Because it's gravity's pull vertically down on the even mathematical opposing bends of the body, these are the locations where these bends will get altered. When it comes to the literal word of clothing, the human being, it's a chain of connection of bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles. There's only one way the human body could ever work. And if we place things on it that alter its only neutral positions at where the bones literally join, or at the joints of bones, then the whole body will be altered, and that's it, there's no other option. If your clothing's not fitting on your body properly, the way your bones are shaped and connect, your body's going to be damaged no matter what you want to do ever, so that's why we're a clothing company. In the Image Clothing Company, right? Allowing the body to work being our slogan here under our main side. Well, yeah. The glutes pull in, back, and down. This video is titled the 29th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. The glutes really pull in to the rear of the body, to the center. We've got the rectum, where bowel movement comes out. There's an actual hole, right, between the rear of the glutes. These glutes really pull back and essentially seal off the rectum, if you will. I say that just because I want to make it clear of what I mean by the glutes pull in. They really do. And so while they do this, the glutes pulling in the rear of the body toward each other, it opens the whole hip structure, because we've got this upper leg bone coming up and inward, and the shape of the top of this upper leg bone locks open and into place, if you will, yikes, when we fully posteriorly rotate the pelvis. Or really what's happening is, when this video's title happens, the glute muscles pull in, back, and down, right? The 29th of July, 2026, today's date, in the Image Clothing Company's main side. What this is really doing is fully opening the whole leg. Okay? When the glutes pull in, back, and down. Now the legs open all the way down to the foot. So why we focus on the glutes pulling in to the rear of the body, like toward each other, or why I'm focusing on that right now, is because we've got things that can go the exact opposite direction. We've got a video's title here under In the Image Clothing Company's main side currently that is stretchy pant material and the glutes. And the glutes pull in, back, and down. Stretchy material placed on the glutes essentially pulls out, forward, and then it'll stretch upward as well. Stretch in clothing, new, just tens of years ago, as of today's year, if you will, 2026. It didn't exist. There was no such thing as stretch in clothing until stretchy materials got invented by human beings recently. and then put into clothing. A relative recent past, yeah, so muscles only pull. It's an electrical signal, an electrical system sent from the brain down to all the muscles, down the brain stem, through the spinal cord, and out through the entire body. The little nerve endings. When this video is titled on the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site, is the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. Well, this is a pulling. It's a contraction, an activation of muscle fibers getting closer together with an electrical system sent from the brain. All muscles ever do is pull. Even in what seems like a push, we pull muscles together on the back side of a hinge to extend the hinge joint. There's no pushing the human being does physically. It's physically, mechanically impossible. You hear me stutter when it gets so real? Because even if we're like pushing on the ground with our legs, like to jump up off the ground, we're not pushing off the ground. We're pulling muscles to extend hinges and levers to propel us off the ground. Like the glutes are muscles that really play into jumping, but it's because the glutes pull. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. That's how we jump, like this. Okay. Okay. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Truly, and a third, truly. There's no opinion to it. It's no new information. I don't have some breakthrough. I have a deep understanding on what's going on when people's bodies aren't working, why we get into chronic patterning so deeply, and how to rid the patterning as well. As the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company, those are the reasons why we're here as a clothing company. It's about the human body, right? What we're choosing to literally clothe the body with, well, material in pants that's stretching on the glutes, away from the glutes, pulling away from the glutes in the opposite direction that the pull of the musculature of the glutes stabilize the body in, back, and down. Well, the body can't work within something literally clothing it that wants to have motion in the exact opposite direction that the glutes work in. So that's a big point, because the glutes pull in together. We're essentially pinching the glutes, clenching the glute muscles. And you've probably heard that if you have. I know I have, in all the ways people would say that, depending on the context. But clenching the glutes together, that's what we're doing. They actually come in together to the center line of the body. But again, only if the feet can be flat on the ground first, and then if we don't have material stretching away second, as a couple things, So this is what I'm saying is, you can do all the workouts you want every day for the rest of your entire life. Exercise motions and routines, and, pushing weight, pulling weight, around with your body. It's always a pull, but in a pushing type of motion by pulling muscles to extend hinges, right? Anyway, you can do this for the rest of your life every single day you'd like to. But if there's something physically placed on you while you're doing it, because we do everything we do in life in and through the literal word of whatever we're clothing our bodies with, and if that thing's not working for your body, the only way your body works, because there's truly only one way, hear me correct, the physical, immovable by themselves bones of the human body grow to be a certain shape. I mean, they're only what they are. It could never possibly do anything else, the human being. So yeah, you'll just be wasting your time trying to get to your body to do something within clothing that's not allowing your body to just work the only way it could ever possibly physically, mechanically move. It is mathematics. It's measurable motion. I know I sound so prideful, but this isn't like my choice or my information. This is just the truth, and I just stand harsh on it because you will never have a breakthrough on the human being to get something new to happen with it. But, you know, yeah, we've also just got such soft, squishy things we sit on, like this bed, you know, for example. You know, it's so squishy. You sit on something squishy and your glutes will separate. Your glutes, or this video's title, on the 29th of July 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, In The Image Clothing Company, man, allowing the body to work. The title is The Glute Muscles Pull In, Back, and Down. And if you sit on something soft and squishy, and that goes away from you as you sit on it, well, your glute muscles are trying to pull in, and you're sitting on something that's pulling away. And so you're separating your glutes. They should pull in, and like I said, truly, they almost like seal the rectum. Really, I mean the glute muscles, because they pull like closed together. You sit on something soft, and it pulls your glutes apart from each other, from the center line of your body and around your body. And now your pelvis is in an anterior rotation. But the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. So this is what I'm saying is that I know what I'm talking about. Meaning, there's people who have been trying to train bodies for longer than I have been alive at 27 years old currently. Me, Evan Strong, the founder and leader of In The Image Clothing Company for life. There's no way to. It's impossible. You're not going to unless you have a surgical procedure to change the shape and length or length of the bones. It'll never happen. The bones only connect how they do. All musculature in the body does is move the bones. So the glute muscles pulling in, back, and down are just moving the bone of the pelvis. That's it. It's only the shape that it is. You know? I mean, you can say they're moving the upper leg bones that come and connect up into the pelvis, and they're moving the spine that comes and connects down into the pelvis. But these glute muscles are just moving bone. And bone's only the shape that it is in the body. So there's only one way the human body could ever work. But if you are pulling your glute muscles away from the center line of your body, you're just moving your physical bone of your pelvis as well. And the physical bone of your upper legs as well. Because the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. This video's title, the 29th of July 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going on because, man, I mean, that's what I'm saying. This could be a very long video. There's so many ways we could discuss this, meaning so many things I could discuss that are playing into people's glute muscles just not working properly. The only way they connect to the bones that are the only shape and length that they are in the body. There's only one way the body works. But reasons why it's not: tags, labeling, placed into clothing after the clothing's made in modern 2026. You know, it's only been decades, again, tens of years from 2026, like now, time, okay, back, that this had to happen. It's a legal thing, a legality, because unnatural materials are a big reason, you know, getting invented and being made into clothing. Well, it damages our bodies. It's poison. You know, polyester, acrylic, and whatever we could say, but this is just, these are plastics. Poly blends are plastic blends. It's oil from the earth, like what we place into vehicles to lubricate the engine. And it's placed onto the body's skin. The skin of the body is an organ. It's called the epidermis. And it soaks into the holes of the skin called pores, where the perspiration comes out of the body, or the sweat. But also things go into the body's skin, or the holes in the skin called pores, and the organ of the epidermis. You know, like a topical cream you place on top of your skin to try to heal your body from the inside out, you know, once it soaks into your body. Well, your clothing you know, if it's made out of anything that could soak into your body, it just does. It's placed on you physically all day. That's the literal word of clothing. That's what we discuss here under In the Image Clothing Company. That's why we're a clothing company, is the literal word of clothing. It's nothing to do with fashion or anything like that. We could be just as much In the Image Clothing Company forever without ever selling a single item of clothing or even dealing with clothing at all if we never clothed the body. It's about the anatomy of the human being. That's why we're here as In the Image Clothing Company. And so, anyway, there's a lot of reasons that unnatural materials got invented, but then, well, that's a separate thing, meaning there's a lot of reasons that labeling got placed into clothing. A lot of that is because of the unnatural materials clothing's made out of. But you'll have these tags, these physical gaps within clothing. That's one of the things we discuss under In the Image Clothing Company. You have to do. There's no opinion to it. Without having your body be physically damaged. If you have a physical gap being caused between your clothing item and your body's skin from a tag or a label in clothing, well, that's putting people into the positions that we would call bad posture around this time period in modern 2026 and going forth if. But this video is titled, the 29th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main site here, spoken by me, Evan Strong, the founder and leader for life of In the Image Clothing Company. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. Well, you know where they're pulling into is right between them. And that's where the rear of our pant waistline is. And around this time period in modern 2026, and for the past decades before this, tens of years back, there has been very commonly little pieces of labeling placed right in the rear of the pant waistline between those glute muscles. Or right above those glute muscles, but still between them, and it hangs down right between where they are. This little labeling of clothing, like a pant item of clothing, what the material is, where it was made on the earth, washing, drying instructions for the item of clothing, things like this are why the labels are placed in there. Again, it's a legal thing. Serial numbers, model numbers of the manufactured product, right? I mean, truth is truth. This is what I'm saying. The Industrial Revolution. In the 1900s, we started making things differently as human beings when robots got invented and machinery got invented more than it had been in the past. We just label things now with tags, around this time period at least. And the point is, the glutes have to pull together in the rear. And if you've got some little piece of material, even if it's natural material, let's say it's made out of 100% cotton, it's just a physical thing sticking between your glutes, and there's actually a little divot or space between your glutes because there's two separate muscles on either side pulling in together. The muscles only insert to the bones how they do. They're just the shape that they are because they're literally just flesh connected to bone. Yeah, okay. You've got a physical thing in the way of between the glutes with a tag or a label in the rear of a pant waistline. Okay, this video is titled the 29th of July, 2026, under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. Well, not with a tag in the way. It's just in the way, so the glute muscles will be trying to avoid it, and they'll separate when the glute muscles pull together on both the left and right, or the right and left side of the body, in and back and down. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on, right? Secondary to the body can't get imbalanced by itself. It can't. Not really, seen with context, but we get into so many imbalances. We've got so much problem happening. So many different problems happening in people's physical bodies in modern 2026 and going forth, and so before we can address the glute muscles, we have to start at the feet. But before we can address the glute muscles, what are they connecting into? The pelvis, or the hip structure of the human being. And if you're wearing pants, they're placed onto your hips or your pelvis. Okay. Gravity just truly does have the same effect on our clothing that it has on our bodies. Pants sit on our hips. You know, I mean, no matter where you put your pants on your body, there's still somewhere on your hip area, but there's also only one way the bone of the pelvic structure of the human being, or the hips, are shaped. And pants have to sit above the hip bone. Again, it doesn't matter how you carry fat, where you do, if you do. It doesn't matter. Fat's always a secondary thing to bones. Just like muscle is always a secondary thing to bones. The bones are only the shape that they are, and there's hip crests, like a crest, like the top of a hill on the top of either side, the right and left, or the left and right of the hips, or the pelvic structure of the human being. And the pant waistline has to sit above that, because that's the only area we can bend side to side. On Earth's vertical gravity pull, the spine above the hips is the vertical support of bone, and it's in the very direct center of the human being, meshing with Earth's vertical gravity pull. And so it's actually truly impossible to bend side to side at the hips without a foot coming off the ground. So we bend side to side above the hips. And so the pants have to be in the same area. Just because there's something physically placed on us, it can only have our bodies be able to move, still allow our bodies to move. In the Image Clothing Company's main side here, our slogan, allowing the body to work. You know, only if the thing we physically place onto the physical body, on this physical rock and space we call Earth, these items of things we call clothing, the literal wording of anything on the body, you know, physically. It's just what it is. Truth is truth. It has to be at the same location as the only way the body's bones can physically move. Otherwise, you can't. You know. So yeah, pants, you know, they got to be horizontal, at least slightly higher in the front, if anything different than just horizontal. But there's always that neutral. And in order for the glutes to work, that's what I'm saying, you know, if anything, slightly higher in the front than the rear, because then the glutes can pull down. With this video's title, on the 29th of July, 2026, under In The Image Clothing Company's main site here, the glute muscles pull in, back, and down. The pant waistline has to be able to come down in the rear for the glutes to pull. If your pant waistline is always lower in the front, you will never physically, I mean physics-wise, like mathematics, you will never even activate your glute muscles to their natural, neutral position, with your pant waistline falling lower in the front. You're pulling on your glutes. The glute muscles pull down. On the pelvic bone they're connected to, the hip structure of the human being, which the pant waistline is sitting on as well. It's all going to do the exact same thing. It's physics. It's not an opinion. It's not something you can override through workouts. It's gravity. There's only one way the human body could ever work. It's always been the exact same. No breakthrough of mine, Evan Strong's, but I am the founder and leader for life of In The Image Clothing Company. We deliver eternal, permanent pieces of truth that we don't get to decide or change as human beings. So there's a lot going on with this, and that's probably all I'll say in this video. But just for the understanding of the angle, the position of the pelvis gets into, or the hip structure, when the glute muscles work, when all muscles in the body do to work is pull, the endpoints of where they insert to bones, called tendons, directly in line together. Well, the glutes, they connect just to the crests of the pelvis, meaning there's these outer like ridges to the pelvic structure. It's kind of like a butterfly shape. It's like the pelvis almost has wings on either side, if you will. You know, crests, hills, arches, and the glute muscles connect to these crests, and then they pull to where they connect to the other side of the crest. There's crests on the top of the hips, and the hips come down, and then there's crests down underneath the hips as well. and the glutes just pull to where they're connected. You know, wherever it is exactly, whichever muscle we're talking about specifically of the multiple glutes, and then all the muscles as well just playing into the same functioning happening, because the entire body's always working, and so everything's just got to work together because it's all there. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Physics, gravity, universal laws outside of all of us. But if you just look at the location where the muscle connects to on one side, and then on the other side, it just pulls in that location. You know, so the glute muscles pull in, back, and down, just because of how all the musculature of the glutes, but then everything else going into it, and the shape of the upper leg bones, and the shape of the pelvic structure, and where the spine comes down in and connects into the pelvis, all of this playing into this happening. There's only one way it does. It grows by itself. It's just physics. It's God's eternal truth, meaning before us could even be a thought as a human being, God had this design of the human being, meaning the body just grew to what it is. It's only what it is. There's no workout plan, no stretching routine. Muscles only pull ever anyway. Never stretch your body at all. That sounds insane to a lot of people, but I will be doing this the rest of my entire life as the leader of In The Image Clothing Company, me, Evan Strong. I haven't stretched in like 2 years, and it's not an exaggeration, and it's not some kind of like thing either. It's just the truth. We have even opposing musculature. It pulls into a neutral position. There's only one way the human body could ever work. There's no possible opinion to it. God designed it to work. Clothing doesn't allow it to. If it doesn't, man, permanent truth. In The Image Clothing Company is eternally valid, because it's just information that was here before we could be as human beings, and we just have an understanding of it. So, anyway. In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, the only way the top of the feet are shaped when we weave a rope across the top of the feet on the bones, ligaments, tendons, and muscles that make up these gripped arches in the feet with different length 5 toes. You know, the dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, internal rotation, external rotation, pronation, and supination in the foot all play into the upper leg bones before we can get into the hips to have the glutes connect to the hips to ever focus on the glutes. There's only one way the human body could ever work. Like I say, we do all we can to discuss things in such thorough depth you couldn't possibly dispute the information here, because we don't get to decide it anyway. It only is what it is. But yeah, it's only what it is. So, the 29th of July, 2026, in The Image Clothing Company's main site here. The glute muscles pull in, back, and down. I'm going to turn around and have you watch my glutes activate, truly. For the visual of seeing the anatomy, watch this, really. Okay? In, back, and down. You can actually see the whole motion of my pelvis in these pants. And because I'm slender right now, it's good for the visual, because you can actually kind of see the outline of the structure of the hips, how the pant waistline sits on the hip bones, regardless of the fat content that is or isn't there within human beings individually. It's absurd. It drives me crazy. People are focused on the wrong things, and we just don't know what we don't know. You can't be held accountable for what you don't know, but people will tell you to stretch all day, every day, and work out all day, every day to get your body into a different position. It's impossible. Ligaments connect bones directly. They will never move without breaking. Rupturing a ligament, tearing a tendon, pulling a muscle, breaking a bone. That's the only way you'll ever get to your body to do anything besides the only way the bones connect. So, I know I'm bold and harsh on it, but it's not my choice. It's not like I could even be prideful about it. It's not up to me. Truth is truth, though. There's only one way the human body could ever work. So getting out of chronic patterning is what we do here under In The Image Clothing Company's main side, really. Unless you've never gotten into patterning, then we just continue allowing the body to work like the babies into toddler age. Their bodies have all their natural motion, Then we get into patterning along the way if we do as human beings. We know how to rid that patterning here under In the Image Clothing Company. Fairly universal clothing imbalances are shipped across the entire earth in modern day in ways that could never have possibly happened in the past before we had the technology for that to be the case. Oh, yes, like airplanes. Okay, yes. Yes. So, yeah, we give a lot of free modifications in clothing imbalances. Some of those are these. First of all, let me say this. Clothing has to, at baseline, stay centered, fit correct, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials. Staying centered because there's a center line to the human being mathematically. And not only that, but it meshes with Earth's vertical gravity pull that is centered as well. Fitting correct, things like joints of material of clothing meshing with joints of body parts where the bones of the body literally join together. Okay, where the motion happens and nowhere else without breaking bone. Being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials because the body of the human being is only earth. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. Everything that is here on this earth, broken down into the smallest pieces that we can, is what we call matter. So you either eat plants that grew from the earth or eat animals that ate plants that grow from the earth. It literally becomes the human being. Once we die, the body decomposes back into the earth. There truly are only ever natural materials that exist. But as human beings, we can take natural things and change them temporarily into unnatural things, but they will always decompose back to natural. It just takes time. Okay? It's all the same stuff anyway. You just kind of alter its form, sort of, for a while. I mean, physics, it's truth, right? There's only one way all of this happens. It's none of our choices. We all came to the same earth. We're all human beings designed by the same God, placed on the same earth. It's just what it is, even if you're not the slightest bit religious. You don't have to be. Truth is truth. Science gets you to truth. Religion gets you to God. We could say science gets you to God and religion gets you to truth. They're one and the same. God is the truth. Okay, here you go. I mean, it is what it is. In the Image Clothing Company's main site here. Oversized clothing. It's an imbalance. It'll get us into chronic patterning. An oversized top, for example, there's a neutral height to the shoulders. It correlates with the neutral to the wrist. It's just the shape of the bones and the fingers through the hand, through the forearms up to the elbow. You know, if we have our elbows bent like this, there's just a neutral. It is what I'm saying. I'm giving the visual explanation. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. There's only one way the human body could ever possibly physically, mechanically operate. It's physics. But oversized clothing pulls our shoulders down to the low end of their neutral, like an oversized top with, you know, oversized clothing. Yeah, damage. Okay, chronic patterning. Years and years, your body will be very damaged. Scar tissue and bone spurs will build up in your body. Zippers interlock one side over the other. That's an imbalance. Buttons, one side in front of the other. That's an imbalance. Seams, rotating seams. Robots stitching our clothing in modern 2026 rotate the seams often, like side seams in the top, side seams down pants, legs, and wherever it is in clothing, rotations happening where they're stitched to the bottom of a shirt tail or the pant cuff. The body has its own rotations from internal versus external rotation. There's that neutral to the entire human being. Within our clothing, if clothing's rotating on our bodies are constantly rotated. We're in a constant state of compensation. Damage through the body happens. It's permanent until you fix it. Because things that aren't our fault, but apply to all of us, universal truth. The fact that there's rotated seams in clothing in modern 2026 is one of those universal truths shipped across the entire earth. There's your universal part about it. Okay, on the universal human design, we've all got the same 206 bones in our bodies and over 400 muscles. Unless you're different, but only from that. How bold can I be, Jesus Christ? I mean, this is amazing. What else do we have that we can discuss here? Shoelaces, drawstrings, ropes just tied on or around the body. One side over the other, you twist the entire human being. Even a long sleeve top, you just tie around your waist with the sleeves. You twist your whole body and you damage it, okay, permanently, until fixed or addressed. That's what the word chronic means, chronic patterning, okay? And then just stretchy materials placed onto the body, or things just heat shrunk or stitched onto the body. Labeling and clothing like we mentioned, but just something that's different, discrepant, front or back, left or right in the body. There's only one way it works. I mean on the body though, with the literal word of clothing it. Thank you. Let's be done here. This is amazing. So we've got In The Image Clothing Company Poodles, In The Image Clothing Company Music, and In The Image Clothing Company Podcast as the other 3 sides to the 4 sides of In The Image Clothing Company from this one here on our main side. We have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ under In The Image Clothing Company Podcast. We're on episode 214 as of today's date, the 29th of July, 2026. The state of Utah, the United States of America. Check us out. Thank you and goodbye. I'll be here for life, though.